Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Comix Watch. I am Nick, and with me is the man with the best ship.
Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship?
Sir, finishing this fight.
Nice. What's up, dude?
What is up? So
The Comics Lord has arrived.
Yes, so this is Comix Watch. This is our brand new show where we cover reviews, interviews, and commentary. So for this inaugural episode, I thought we'd kind of do something familiar, get on my home turf, and we are covering Nightwing, Volume 1 by Chuck Dixon.
I'm a big Chuck Dixon fan. It's
Oh,
almost
yes.
like I even talk. It's almost like I got to interview him once.
Whoever got you that interview, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, he is.
So yeah, Nightwing is a character that really does mean a lot to me. I would classify him as my favorite superhero. In fact, I like him so much that I spent entirely way too much friggin' money on this thing.
Oh, nice.
So this is a print signed by the original artist. So it is signed by the original artist, and I believe this is one of the covers of like the initial run. Like, I don't know, it's really
But Nick,
beautiful.
let me ask you, why is Nightwing your favorite superhero?
I am really glad you asked, Jared.
Because whenever people tell me what their favorite superheroes are, that's always like a question I always have, because it always fascinates me.
So Nightwing is a character that I really relate to a lot in terms of like his backstory. Like he was the original Robin, and eventually he kind of like he went off on his own, became his own superhero. He didn't want to live under the shadow of bad. It kind of on a very superficial level, it kind of mirrors the relationship I have with like my father. Like I wanted to get out of my father's shadow, be my own man, and just do my own thing, and the friction that results from it, and it's just kind of a story that I've latched onto, and Nightwing's a character who he's someone who ideally I would like to be myself. Like he's like kind of like he's always, I don't know, he's a person I want to be. He's an aspirational goal.
Personally, I like him because Batman's always going to go through this thing. Am I making an effect on Gotham? Am I being an effective hero? Am I making the world better? Dick Grayson is the example that Bruce can always point to. In fact, I believe in one of the comics, Alfred says, just look to Dick Grayson. Because the reason why he is what he is because of you, sir.
Yeah, like that's kind of a thing you've seen in like recent comics is Nightwing being called Batman's greatest success, which I think is pretty fair. Like that's a pretty fair thing to put in there.
I was reading some Tom King Batman, and Tom King has this fantastic moment where they're teaming up and they're having that like back and forth banter. Nightwing is making jokes, and I'm like, I like this guy. Ironically, it was Tom King that made me a bigger fan of Nightwing.
So, going into this, how much did you know of like the original Nightwing Chuck Dixon run?
The original run, 0. The character, a lot, because obviously being a Batman fan as I am, I'm very familiar with the character.
Yeah, so going into this is Nightwing's first solo series, which started in like 95, 96. And at the time of this release, Dick Grayson had been Robin. I mean, he had been Robin. He had been Nightwing for roughly about 10 years or so, roughly. And so he's not new to the role. He's not new to Robin. He's very solidified in what he is. But
he's new to this suit.
this particular suit, but the Nightwing identity he's had.
Yeah. I know, because I had previously read the prequel series by Denny O'Neil when he swapped out the old, honestly, not that bad look and suit that he had in like the George Perez Titans run for the modern one that we think of when we think of Nightwing.
I believe this iteration is, which is pretty much his quintessential suit right here, is basically the third version of his suit.
Okay.
The one he had in Titans was very like disco oriented.
Hey Nick, why don't you tell the nice people at home who may not know that much about Nightwing about like the origins of the name Nightwing?
Oh, like that is a really great one. So basically with Nightwing, all right. So the origin of the name Nightwing comes from a meeting with Superman, where he tells him about a Kryptonian pair of superheroes called Nightwing and Flamebird.
That's really cool. And what's kind of interesting about that is that you wouldn't expect Superman to give Nightwing his identity. You would partly expect Batman. Okay, there you go. Yeah. It was the 92 suit is the one I remember it for, in the previous Perez, in the not Perez, in the previous O'Neil run that where he transitioned into the blue suit.
Yeah, this is what he had in the 90s. Like if you read Batman, the one where Bane breaks his back, Nightfall, this suit makes an appearance. This was the original one. This is like the disco one.
And I think that the 92 one was the one he wore in the Death of Superman.
Probably. And then this is the one that we're talking about now.
That 2005 one looks funky.
Yeah, not a fan.
I was more of a fan of the new 52 suit. Granted, I like the blue. It was just a nice little change of pace. I get why they went back to the blue.
I don't hate it, but like honestly, like doing the red, it just makes it look a little bit too edgy. Because like I feel like they're trying to like standardize the colors along the Batman line of like black and red. But honestly, Nightwing it's Robin's egg blue. Like that's his color.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, yeah, exactly. It's the same thing as like if they all of a sudden change Superman's color scheme permanently, you can't, because Nightwing has always been a combination of black and blue.
Yeah, and if I had a personal favorite, it would probably be this one. I mean, this one as well. I mean, this kind of varies, but like I like the sticks. Kind of got like that V angles, like bird wings. This is my favorite Nightwing suit right here.
Yeah, I like that one. I think that the one they used in Titans was more of the previous model, the 95 one, because seeing as though, here's a little inside baseball for you, the actor who played Nightwing, he couldn't because of the suit, he couldn't reach back to grab the sticks, so they put them like on his back belt here.
Oh, well, that makes sense. And yeah, by the way, these are all strictly comic book suits. Like if we go into like the other media, there's a lot of different variations.
I saw the 2020 Rick Grayson suit and I wanted to gag.
Yeah.
But anyway, so back to this. But again, I am very familiar with Chuck Dixon's writing because again, I've read The Punisher. I've read I'm almost done with Batman Nightfall. We're working my way through it. It's a lot to read, so it's really cool. But what I like about Dixon as a writer is he really gets into the psychology of the character and makes you understand them on a fundamental level, because that's when you really identify with the character themselves.
So that is what brings us to this.
Let's go.
So we are going to be reviewing the first volume. You know, just the first volume and kind of going over it. So Jared, what are your overall thoughts now? Like just general thoughts of this going into this.
Well, first off, I'm not sure. I think this is my first exposure to Scott McDaniel's art, and my God, it is gorgeous.
I mean, I'm sure, like you know,
look at this,
Jared. You know how I won't shut the frick up about Scott McDaniel's art. Like I'm always talking about Scott McDaniel's art on stream. Do you understand why now?
Yeah, I understand why now, because look at this.
Like, you know how I always mention on stream, like, I want Scott McDaniel to do a cover. Like, do you understand now?
I also love there's this scene. I think it's in one of the earlier issues when Nightwing is fighting a criminal and they cut his ponytail. He goes, "Hey, I didn't want to cut the ponytail yet." Well, okay, I'll get it more professionally cut later. That is so
Yeah.
Nightwing. He would make that joke.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the real reason is they just didn't want to have the ponytail anymore in his design, so that made sense.
Yeah. Again, look at the way this is done. The framing about how it's a city from the top down. Superb work.
I honestly like, and look at like, okay, this panel in particular is important because what I like about like this story is it has an image feel to it. Like
It
this
does
panel,
100%.
like if you told me this was like Spawn or Youngblood or whatever, I would believe you because this looks like an Image Comics panel.
And I think I know why, because the Image books, well, first off, they were coming out around this time, so you have to know there'd be influence. But the thing is about the Image art style is that it's very high energy and very, like, I guess, energetic. And this book definitely emulates that to a superb degree.
Also, the other thing about the Image style is exaggerated proportions, which I think is where Rob Liefeld gets a lot of his heat from. Is Rob Liefeld's actually a good artist? It's just he has a few quirks that sometimes don't really work.
He has
well.
a few quirks, but I don't really care because when he draws an image, it looks badass. I mean, he's been known as I saw someone label him as the Michael Bay of comics.
Except Rob Liefeld is actually a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. So I'm like, oh, okay, but yeah, I've never gotten the hate that Rob Liefeld, because he gets vitriolic hate, and I'm like,
He's
the
the nicest guy.
dude. He's the nicest guy. He's if there's one guy who is so passionate about comics, it's that dude right there.
Imagine like like I send you a picture like Rob Liefeld did a sketch artist creature. You know, like just imagine.
That's a dream interview I would love to get is Rob Liefeld. Rob, if you're watching this, you have an open invitation to any of our shows.
But yeah, I do like firmly believe that Scott McDaniel is honestly one of the most underrated comic book artists out there.
Oh,
you know?
yes. Oh, yes. 100%.
Like this art is really freaking good.
It's so energetic. It's so like it's so 90s, honestly, and that's
it's 90s in the best way possible.
In the best way. I mean, look at this. Just the way like he frames Nightwing, the long flowing hair. Because here's the thing.
At like the way the ponytail swooshes. Like, look at that.
Because here's the thing. Here's what McDaniel gets. DC, I've said this many times on Comics League. DC is traditionally like the more Greek myth inspired superheroes. And he draws these characters to look like Greek Olympians. Even though not gods, they're still drawn with that physique in mind. And like, I'm seeing that
look at the
here.
posing. Look at the posing.
Yeah, exactly. Just look at that.
Like, that is very much a, like, obviously Scott McDaniel's art is very exaggerated. I mean, yeah. But, well, like, yeah, it works.
It's a comic book. It's a comic book.
Exactly.
Let's put it this way, Nick. To quote what I said to Mike Barron, are you not entertained?
I am entertained.
By the way, that's a top, like, 10 moment of Comics League right there. That was set up so perfectly. But anyway.
By the way, for your 1,000 sub special, you need to do like the top 10 Comics League moments.
Yeah, we're gonna do that. That's a big plan. We'll do that 100%. And then I'll try and get all the hosts, including Brit, on. But anyway, back to your show. But
yeah, and then like I'm pulling out to the shout out to the colorist Roberta Tewes. I don't want to butcher their last name. I think they did a miraculous job on this, honestly. Like,
yeah, and honestly, good on you for like shining at the colors, because I feel like colorists don't get enough attention.
Yeah, like I feel like this book is kind of a mixture of like the best of both Image and Top Cow, which like people think like, oh, Top Cow, they're just doing Image style. Like they were, but kind of like they're doing it on like a different like branch of it.
Yeah, let me put it this way. If this were an Image book and I was supposed to guess which company this was, I would say Top Cow, because Top Cow had a little bit more of this. If you look at like Witchblade and Fathom and type of that.
Can you zoom in?
Yeah.
Zoom into the old man on the first panel. Like that almost looks like Kenneth Irons to a degree.
Yeah.
That looks straight out of Witchblade almost to a degree. Yeah.
And the other thing, but by the way, I just want to bring up, speaking of colors, the way that the colors does dusk, this little orangey tinge to the sky, and how it actually seems like it's glowing. I love when colorists can do that.
Yeah. I guess that's why you like Reacher, but
Well, yeah.
Anyway. So basically the lead up to this is 21 bodies wash up in Gotham. And they're from Bludhaven. And Bludhaven is basically Gotham's Oakland, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Another parallel, so this is really, you only get this if you live in Michigan, is Bludhaven is basically the Flint, Michigan to Gotham's Detroit.
Okay.
And by that I mean it's a story. It's a city that's like not too far down. Flint is like an hour north or so of Detroit, but it's like 10 times worse. It's a really crappy area, you know, whatnot. You know, it's like, oh, you think it's bad, just go to Flint, you know. Mm-hmm. And so like I was kind of getting those parallels. If you only really get this if you live in Michigan. So mm-hmm. Basically, Batman sends Nightwing down there to investigate, and Nightwing's like, I like this place. I think I might stay. I mean, it's a little more complicated than that, but that's about the gist of it.
And the thing about this story that really struck me is how Nightwing is also goes through some struggles trying to establish himself as a superhero. And when you think about it, and this it came to me, Nick, let me know if you thought of this. This seems like a good mirror to when Bruce first showed up before he established the Bat persona. Because like he struggled, he had to like really establish himself before he became like that dude that everyone fears.
Yeah, I could see that. The thing that really was getting me is, even though Nightwing has existed for 10 years, this does feel like a bit of a beginning. It feels like an extension of his origin story where, and these comments about this in the book, is like he's been so dependent on Bruce and Batman financially and just for everything. This is like truly the final evolution of Dick Grayson's character where, sure, he's his own superhero, but now he's really kind of struck out on his own. Like he's like sure, Batman's like Batman is a half an hour away. So there's kind of like this abstraction where like, you know, it's like when you have a 22-year-old, they graduate from college and they move to the town a half hour away. You know, they're on their own, but the parents are always like a half hour down drive. So like if they need anything, you know, like that's kind of a very crucial stage. Like I would call that the training wheel stage, where it's like, yeah, they're out on their own, but the parents can help them. Like I feel like that's really important to a person's development.
Yeah, 100%. And by the way, for the art on this one, what struck me is this particular like rendering of Nightwing jumping. This reminds me a lot of like Jim Lee and Hush when he was trying to show like Harley jumping around and is showing like motion in a static image. And I'm always fascinated about how artists do that.
Yeah, this is something that you see come up a lot in this first volume, where Scott McDaniel shows a lot of that kind of motion, and I gotta say, this definitely inspired something. So, like, just take a look at this.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Like this was directly inspired by the way Scott McDaniel do battle scenes and whatnot. Like, yeah, this style is like taken straight out of it, you know.
Also, it looks a lot like Arkham, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, brother. I could definitely see that.
But yeah, what really struck me is that I just, going back to what you said, I love how McDaniel does action scenes. Like they feel energetic. They don't feel like stagnant or anything like that. He makes you feel like you're watching a Hollywood action movie in a good way, in the best way possible. Because ultimately, if I'm reading a comic book and you can make me feel like I'm watching an action movie, you've done your job, sir.
That is a kind of thing where it's like every comic artist wants to do that, but not all of them can.
Not all of them can. Like Jim Lee, EVS, McDaniel, are the ones that immediately come to mind. Michael Turner, but back in the day, are those artists that I would say 100%. Yeah, 100. They could do that.
And I will say, if you made it this far in the video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us, have you read this volume? Like, are you a fan of Nightwing? Or what's your favorite Robin? Please tell us in the comments below.
And why is it Dick Grayson?
Exactly.
You know, inevitably they're going to say that.
Yeah.
But
So,
I think
like,
it's a tie between Jason and Dick, because Jason also represents the possibility of redemption brought through Batman.
See, for me, I feel like Dick and Tim are like the perfect yin and yang as far as Robins go. Like, Dick is the better fighter. In fact, he rivals Batman in terms of fighting prowess. Like, I've said this many times, where Catwoman comments, he's faster than the Bat, but only by a whisker. Like, Nightwing is one of the few people who actually has a legitimate possibility of beating Batman in a sparring match.
And they say this, by the way, in the book later, when Nightwing is hanging out with Tim Drake, and they basically go through about what Tim Drake contributes, and he goes, "No, you're the detective of the group. You are the more tech savvy and detective savvy person in our squad, if you will."
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like that like Tim was a better detective. Like, he's no slouch in the combat athletics department, but he said it himself. It comes naturally to Dick, but whereas Tim, he has to work for it.
And I like that, because too often people that don't understand the Bat family always tell me, though, the Robins are all the same. And I'm like, no, because on a superficial level, yes, they're all dudes named, they all eventually have been dudes named Robin. But when you look at the fine details, each one is vastly different than the other. Even Damian is Damian is arguably, I would say, the best Robin in terms of hand-to-hand combat prowess.
Here, how's it goes. Dick Grayson is the golden child. Tim is the detective. Damian is the prodigal son.
Who's Jason?
Dead. I'm sorry, you set me up for that so well.
I saw someone say, hey, at least Nightwing can dodge a crowbar. So what do you think of this design for Black Mask?
It's certainly a choice.
It's a new choice. I prefer the one that was like Under the Red Hood, the all black skull face.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was an attempt, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, like Black Mask is certainly a character that, like, not many outside of comics really know about him, even though he's been prominent in comics for like 20-30 years. Like, I think the most they know about him is Under the Red Hood, and then the Birds of Prey movie.
Yeah, he's a little bit more of an obscure character.
I'd say Black Mask is basically DC's Kingpin. Like,
yeah, and honestly, he would fit well in the Matt Reeves universe.
He really would. Like, I would like to see that.
And I like Nightwing walking in, and he's so wet, and he goes, okay, so, and then they just slap handcuffs on him.
Yeah, like, this is a thing where it's like, you thought Gotham was bad. Bludhaven makes Gotham look like heaven by comparison.
And that says a lot, because jeez.
See, okay, so like they always said, Metropolis is New York during the day. Gotham is New York during the night. Bludhaven is Chicago.
And Los Angeles.
I mean, let's throw Detroit in there. Why not?
Yeah, might as well.
But like, it's worse. You know, it's hell's septic tank, if you will.
There you go.
Ugh.
Yeah, so we got some more art on issue 2. Do you want to go through the art for all 8 issues?
At least kind of just showing the stuff. I love this page as well. Like, I love it when he just draws like Dick Grayson because it's really interesting. Like the camera angles he chooses. Oh, also this panel is really interesting because what I like about these early issues when they're talking about the landlord, they kind of pull a Mary Jane. Like they pull kind of like a little bit of a Mary, like where you getting that vibe where it's like, because remember, before they showed Mary Jane, they always obscured her face. So like when they showed like face it tiger, you hit the jackpot. Like I feel like once you understand the context of that panel, it makes it even more. It makes it even more important. Like the impact of it. Like sure, the face that you hit the jackpot is probably one of the most famous comic panels of all time. But when you really understand what led up to it, it takes on even more provenance.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that pose of Nightwing, man. Again, very energetic art right here.
Yes, back when
it's also very Spider-Man-y.
Yeah, like that's kind of the thing. Like you can very much make comparisons between Nightwing and like I kind of feel like Nightwing is more of a Daredevil-esque character rather than a Spider-Man.
Probably.
Because Nightwing doesn't really struggle with like his day-to-day life issues. Whereas Daredevil is more his personal life. Because Daredevil can pay his bills. Daredevil like can make his mortgage payments. But Daredevil can't keep a girl. And that's more of like Nightwing things. Like I feel like Nightwing is more like Marvel's Daredevil, which might explain why I love Daredevil so much.
Which might explain why they also share a taste in weapons. Again, you see how like him in motion, he's bouncing off the train car.
Hey, go back to that previous page, please. Like, zoom in on the third panel up top. Because I just want to give a shout out to the colorist. Look at how they did that lighting. Like, seriously, that is really friggin' good. Like, oh my god. Like, since I'm making my own comics and I see what goes into this stuff, like, I know, like, this type of attention to detail, you do not see very often.
No, you do not.
Yeah, I kind of want to give a shout out to it. Like, also, like, shout out to the inker. Like, they spot blacks really well.
They do.
Like, just the use of shadows is just amazing.
I gotta go back. See if I can.
So, Jared, tell me, did you have any favorite moments in this volume?
Probably Nightwing and talking to Tim Drake and them like basically breaking down the hierarchy of the Robin. And then also honestly, him talking to Barbara Gordon. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, fast forward to the Robin one. Let's highlight that.
Yeah. So let me just...
So you're using the DC Universe app for this?
Yes, I love it.
All right, cool.
So
I love like the look of the gun, just like the shading. The
yeah, and how it just goes right down the barrel. The camera angle is so good.
Yeah, like they use a lot of non-traditional framing for this, and I really like it.
And by the way, I love the meeting of Nightwing and Robin. Nightwing just walking into his apartment, and Robin tries to jump him, and he's like, "Nope."
Also, like I love like Dick's like Irish accents, my weakness. Like I get you, buddy. I totally get you. Irish accents.
Kind of funny. This posing right here is giving me mad Dark Knight Returns vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, yeah, right here with the stakeout scene, they're having this conversation about each of them trying to find their place.
Yeah, it's really great. And by the way, this is probably my favorite Robin suit because it just looks so good.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, look at that. It's just so good. And so yeah, Soames is kind of like his contact. You think it'd be like his I just want to say Nick Fury, but I guess that really isn't the best way. It's his Yuri if you want to like go full Spider-Man on this. But well, even Dick Grayson says so many times he's no Jim Gordon.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I just like kind of like the slow burn, like Dick Grayson's trying to find like his kind of place in this thing. He's like, first he's relying on Soames, but like Soames is kind of like, wait, you're actually the villain of the story. You're not my ally. You're the villain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this.
And I like him having nightmares of falling, kind of like his family fell during the Flying Graysons show.
There's a Linkin Park AMV buried in there somewhere.
Yes, there is. And then and then them falling into an ambush. But first off, that the explosion, and then like again, colorist, the way like the fire is rendered here is really, really, really well done.
Yeah, like it would be too easy to kind of color this, like even color in orange. By doing that, it allows the characters who are in black to stand out so much. Like there is so much going on, on these pages. Like they're actually really complicated, but like the art and the color, you can tell they were made with an eye towards clarity and like directing the eye. So many masters worked on this,
and you even have like glow going off of like a Nightwing's hair up here. You have a little bit of yellow on his face. It kind of 3-dimensionalizes the image.
Yeah, that's why I love this era of art, because it just it pops so well.
Mm-hmm. Then so that's that issue. What was your favorite moment?
Let me just kind of like dig through it real quick, but like probably when he's first meeting Soames, and he's like, "Oh, let me do all those cuffs." Oh no, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I know. So before we kind of start like wrap things up, what do you think of Lady Vic?
Is that her?
Yeah.
I think that this was an attempt to give Nightwing a Harley Quinn, and I'm in for it. I think it looks really interesting. Her design is really interesting. I like her motivations. She's a very intriguing character.
Yeah, she's someone who I really feel should have been used more. She actually was used in Titans. Like, I think they actually had Lady Vic in Titans, by the way. But yeah, like this, they actually do give Nightwing his own rogues gallery, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, like Blockbuster, he's in this book.
Yeah.
What you don't
I
know
love
is
how it's like and I won't return my tape plate again.
Well, what you don't know is that on the side, Blockbuster actually runs a video store on the side.
Wait, is that really? Was that in the comic? I forgot. Like,
no, I was joking.
That would be yeah, that would be a little bit too
because this Blockbuster. I was trying to make a Nick pun.
Well, that's what I said. I'll make sure not to return my tape plate.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's kind of the big bad of like the first big portion of Nightwing. What do you think about that?
I like how they gave Nightwing a villain that he can't directly fight in a fist fight, because otherwise he will get crushed. So it forces Nightwing to think strategically.
Okay, so what score would you give this first volume?
10 out of 10, dude. Writing's on point. Chuck Dixon. Art, we just spent like 20 minutes fawning over the art. Awesome. It gets the characters. It gets like action, and it's in many ways a lot better than the comics we're getting nowadays.
Yes. I would also give this a 10 out of 10. So this is the first time we have both given something a 10 out of 10. So just remember that.
Well, it's also the first episode too.
Yeah. But here's the thing. We love it, but you don't have to take my word for it.
So I got a call from Scott Peterson, who was one of Denny O'Neil's associate editors, and I believe at the time was editing Detective Comics, which I was writing. And he asked me if I wanted to write Nightwing. And I said, I thought Denny O'Neil and Alan Grant were going to write Nightwing. And he said, for whatever reason, they're backing out of the deal. They don't want to write it. And he says, and I need a script in 3 weeks because we're scheduled. Issue number 1's already scheduled at the printers. So I said, who's the artist? And he said, Scott McDaniel. I went, wow, because Scott had just done an amalgam comic called Assassins, with written by Dan Chichester, which really, really impressed me. I liked Scott's, I kind of liked Scott's work prior to this, but the Assassin's Job really blew me away. The kinetic energy and everything else. So I said, yeah, sign me up to work with Scott. So I said, what's the deal? What's the book going to be about? What do you expect? And he said, you have to create a new city. And I want every issue to be like Jackie Chan, like a Jackie Chan movie, like total kinetic energy all the time. And I said, well, with Mr. McDaniel on the art, that's not going to be a problem. So I got to work right away on the script, and I was digging it so much that I just kept writing and really got into the idea of writing the first trade. Because they were telling us at the time to start thinking about in terms of writing for the trade, which to me meant, writing like a novel length story to take place over 6 issues and, have a beginning, middle, and end, be like a novel or like a feature film or whatever. And so I began thinking in terms of that, and I got way ahead of Scott. And I got to issue 6, and Scott still hadn't even started drawing. He was working on some other assignment. And I left some cliffhangers at the end of issue 6. I thought, well, I'm just going to keep on writing. I was way ahead of schedule, way ahead of deadline on all my other titles. So I just kept going and basically wrote the next 6 issues. So I wrote the first 2 trades before Scott ever started penciling the book. Before he ever put pencil to paper for the first issue of Nightwing. And by doing that, it allowed me and Scott Peterson to go back and look at both of these 6-issue stories and, tighten them up, move things around, make sure that everything was dramatized to its, ultimate degree. And it really was a godsend, all of it. And I stayed on Nightwing. Oh, man. I can't remember how many issues I was on Nightwing. But I do know that Scott McDaniel stayed with me for the first, I think, 42 issues. He even wrote his own inventory stories. So it was a tremendous experience, terrific experience. And the fans dug it, which is always good. It's always good when you get a positive response. So I have to say that writing Nightwing, my run on Nightwing, was definitely a high point in my comic book writing career.
Oh my gosh, we got Chuck Dixon on the show.
Yes, we totally did. He agreed to do a cameo, and that was really great of him. Thank you, Chuck Dixon, for doing this. You're awesome.
Love you,
We literally had the author of the book premiere on the show. If that ain't a great way
Thank you for being a kick-ass writer, and I look forward to reading Alpha Core.
Oh, that's gonna be so friggin' good. So yeah, like we've touched upon before, Nightwing was a big inspiration for Creature. Like, now that you've read it and now that you've heard me talk, like I told you, it's inspired by 90s comics, inspired by Nightwing. Now that you've actually read Nightwing, do you get it?
Yes, I do. 100%.
Yeah, just looking at this art, it makes a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're gonna wrap things up. Jared, do you have any final words?
This was super cool, and I look forward to future episodes.
Yep. So these episodes will be going live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And
by the way, if you have any other, if you guys have any runs that you would like us to consider covering, go ahead and drop it, and Nick and I will discuss it. We like seeing what you guys are into too.
Also, if you are watching this the day it goes live, just remember at 6 p.m. me, Jared, and some other people are going to be doing my 400 subscriber special, where I hate you so much. So I will be reading Sins Past, the Spider-Man story. I will be doing the voices, and Jared, you'll be sharing the art from it. Like, you'll be doing what we did before. And that'll be my 400 subscriber special.
Luckily, I have the Marvel one as well. So there you go.
Yes, you have all the coolest toys. So thank you, Jared, and stick to my Twitter where we'll announce next week's topic. Hopefully, it'll be like an interview or a commentary, but we may do a different book as this. We'll probably get to Nightwing Volume 2 at some point, but I'm trying to like just hit all my favorites. So this has been Nick from the Phoenix Press, and remember, I can only show you the door. You're the ones to walk through it.